How did you come to settle on the selections you chose for this album when Dream Theater has such a vast library? Do these selections have some special significance?
When I was first looking at the project of doing Dream Theater music on solo piano, I went through so many different thoughts about how to do it. There's part of my style that's a very kind of piano style. It's a very flowing, improvisatory type of style. And I realized to do that, I'd have to do it on music that was more about the melody and less about the intricate riffs. So depending on what I was setting out to do, I could take some different approaches. Well, after thinking about it a lot, I really wanted to show my flowing piano style on this album. So I thought, okay, well, let me look at the ballads. Dream Theater has a number of ballads. Sometimes they get a little bit overlooked with all the progressive stuff that we do, but I think the ballads can be very beautiful and there's some really wonderful melodies. So as I was getting into this project, I realized this was such a nice way of presenting Dream Theater's melodies in this other format, and I'm able to really express myself in a whole different way. I mean, it's kind of funny that, you know, in some cases I wrote these songs with the band, other songs came before my time, but the energy is really very different when we're playing it as a band and that type of orchestration to where I'm playing it as a solo piano piece. But because the melodies are really very beautiful, they hold up.
What piano did you use for this album? Where did you record the album, and how was it recorded? Did you perform these improvisations live?
I started the project by sitting down at my Steinway piano and doing some recording. I recorded 2 pieces on the piano, and I had some problems with that approach. Number one, I've got a dog that I couldn't keep out of the room, and it snores and it loves to sit right under the soundboard. So when I was reviewing the recordings, every time I'd play a very subtle passage, I'd hear. So I tried to lock the dog out of the room, but then I had the scratching noise on the recording, which I couldn't really take. And finally, when I put the dog on the other side of the house, it was barking. So it was a little bit difficult to get the sound that I wanted. At the same time as all those experiments were happening, I was considering using some really unique and amazing software that I have, because, you know, the world has changed so much in terms of musical instruments. I have a friend named Joe Ierardi who started a company called Synthogy, and they make a product called Ivory. And it's, as I say on the actual album, in the notes, it's world-class piano software. It's really amazing, and I feel very comfortable playing it. It's a very musical instrument, and I decided that, you know what, for this project I want it to be really, really as great as it can be, sonically, arrangement-wise. Let me go into my studio, I'll use Ivory software, it'll sound amazing, and I'll just do it there. So I ended up using Ivory, and I feel very, very satisfied with the piano sound that came out.
Why did you decide to make a piano album? Were you looking for a change from previously heavy orchestrated, synthesized albums such as Feeding the Wheel or The Road Home?
I decided to make a piano album because, well, piano has always been such a big part of my life. I grew up playing the piano. My background is in classical piano. It's really where I come from. So it's kind of a natural progression to do this project, to take Dream Theater's music and do it on solo piano. To be quite honest, it was an idea that my wife Danielle had, and she mentioned to me she thought it would be a really great idea to take Dream Theater songs and do them on piano. Of course, that's a wonderful idea, but the thought of it was a little bit staggering at first, as to how to really do the right thing with the songs, and, you know, because Dream Theater fans are a very exclusive bunch, and you know, to change the music up that much, it's a big responsibility. But then I figured, you know what, if anybody's going to play the songs on piano, it might as well be me, because I'm in the band. And also because I can have a different approach and do my thing. So after some thinking about the idea and some kind of putting it off a bit, I decided, okay, let me get into this. And once I started, it kind of flowed very naturally.
Do you have a special relationship with the piano?
Well, the piano is something that's very, very special to me indeed. I feel like it's some of my most musical moments when I sit at the piano. I'm able to really express myself in a particular kind of way. I love just sitting at the piano and improvising. I could sit there for hours just making up music spontaneously. And you know, if it's a good piano or a good piano sound, the experience can just be so musical and calming and even spiritual for me.
How would you describe the experience of making this album? Did it offer unique challenges that were different from previous recordings you've made? And what were some of those challenges?
Well, there were some definite challenges, even in playing the ballads. A lot of the ballads, and especially just pop ballads in general, they keep a very constant kind of tempo. And if they're in a rock, especially if they're in a rock mode where the tempo can be very strong, it kind of almost contrasts with some of the ideas I had about initially doing my piano arrangements, because I wanted them to be kind of very flowing. So I had to think about how am I going to really present the melody so the melody is very clear, and at the same time make something that satisfies me from a pianistic point of view. So I actually ended up deciding on some very kind of Chopin-esque, like in some of the nocturnes, the left hand, although it would get kind of complicated to play, I could come up with a nice pattern so I could play the melody with the right hand but still have something weaving around it. So the tempo in many cases would remain consistent, but I would add this pianistic approach to it. So things like that had to be thought out, how I would do them. And also, you know, beyond that, how I would take the songs, and I wanted to really put my own touch in it, to come up with things that were perhaps a little bit original within the songs, within the arrangements. So sometimes the songs will veer off and go into something that you'll say, well, that's not part of the song. Well, that was part of my inspiration of where to go with the song.
How did you create these tracks? Are they free improvisations or are they notated works? And what process led you to create the musical running order for the pieces in this work?
When I first started to think about this project, I was thinking, well, how am I going to do this? At first, especially because I sat down at my acoustic piano and I was thinking, well, let's see. I want to, you know, make these slightly improvised but planned out. And one of the choices was to get a pencil and paper and just, you know, write the arrangements and do the whole thing. I ended up recording a few things at the acoustic piano, and I did them more by feel, kind of improvisatory. I had the melody in front of me, or I just remember the melody and just play off of it and just do a lot of takes until something happened that I really liked. And then when I switched the project to my studio, I was a little bit more comfortable with the idea of arranging the music, because at that point I was working in Logic software and I could just improvise, you know, like 16 bars of something. If I didn't like it, I'd do it again, and then I'd find something I like, and then I could think about the next part and try some different things and actually record and just kind of build my arrangement that way. I mean, you know, we're at 2009, a lot of things have changed, and I feel like some of the compositional arranging methods that we have today are just so useful. So I don't so much use like pen and paper anymore. I like to flesh things out, and that's how I did it with this album. I would do it, you know, some of it I would do in big chunks of improvisations. Other things I would do where I would kind of just, you know, figure things out and take my time. So it was an intense process, but it was kind of quick.